Okay, class. I am going to just kind of record what we did in class today. I think that this will just be easier for us in general, just for this class. I mean, it might work out for other classes too. But this is our schedule for the day that we did. So first of all, in the first 10 minutes of class, you're going to take a quiz on Schoology. It's timed, but it is open book. In class, students read when they were done. After that, we listened to the Writer's Almanac, which is a 5-minute podcast about different authors, history, and Garrison Keillor is the voice, and he always ends with like a beautiful poem. So I think each class period, I'll have you guys listen to this. I put a link in Schoology. Let me show you that real quick. Oh, that was it. So it's under here, Writer's Almanac. This is something that I signed up for. I'm not sure if it's going to work for you. If it doesn't, let me know, and then I will play it for you guys. So you'll just hit this link again, and it should take you to today's Writer's Almanac and just hit play. Okay. After that, we took notes in our composition notebook on point of view, which I will share with you. Then we did the critical vocab on page 92. We are not doing the 5-a-day grammar, so not everyone cheer at once. So instead, we have to be able to do vocab and grammar in another way. And we're going to do it through our textbooks. That's how I'm going to be able to tackle our grammar and vocab and things like that. After that, we're going to do notice and note annotations for the Telltale Heart. Your homework, I'll show you a few of them. Your homework will be to finish that and then also read what is the horror genre, 81 through 85, and complete the notice and note. So right now, I'm going to assume that you are going to go do the Writer's Almanac, or sorry, do the quiz. So do the quiz and hit pause right now. Okay, you've taken your quiz and now you're ready to listen to the Writer's Almanac. Go ahead and hit pause and listen to that if possible. Okay, hopefully you enjoyed the poem and the history lesson. Now it's time to take notes on point of view. So you need your composition notebook, and you're going to copy these notes. These notes are also in my slideshow, which is available on Schoology, and I can show you that in just a minute. So point of view is review for you guys. So you do not have to take all of these notes. One thing that I work on in this class is taking less notes, taking smarter notes, being more efficient. You do not have to write down everything that is on this screen. For example, point of view. In a story, the point of view is the narrator's position in the description of events. Instead of writing all this down, here's what I would do. Delete, don't need that. Delete, don't need that. POV for short. POV is, don't need the, narrator's position in the descript. I would just do DESCR because I know what that stands for in my mind, of events. So let's do the same thing for first person. I, we pronouns. I assume that most of you guys would know that, if you have I, we down, you don't need pronouns. The character is in the story relating his or her experience directly. You are inside a character's head, watching the story unfold through the character's eyes. One way to shorten this would be just to say character in story. Relating experiences directly. You are inside character's head, watching story unfold through character's eyes. Okay? Second person is you, and it's very rare in literature, so I don't have much to say about it other than I don't really like it. So I'm going to move on. And it never happens. Hardly ever. Third person. These are the pronouns he, she, it. A narrator describes what the characters do and what happens to them. You don't see them directly through a character's eyes as you do in a first-person narrative, but often the narrator describes the main character's thoughts and feelings about what's going on. I want you to practice shortening this in your notes. So hit pause right now and go ahead and write that down and shorten it. Okay, you are ready to move on. So there are two kinds. We have limited and omniscient. Limited is the most common view in commercial fiction. The narrator is outside of the story. We have a disembodied narrator, which is third person always, and they have some limited information about characters and inner thoughts. Omniscient, omni means all. Shint is like conscience, so like thought. So omniscient means all knowing. The omniscient narrator has full access to the thoughts and experiences of all characters in the story. So you can pause here and then take notes on limited and omniscient. Remember, this is going into your composition notebook, and you want to put this on page 1, and you want to name it, right? Put a title at the top, point of view, 914. Here's what mine ended up looking like. Very, very short compared to all this information on this piece of paper, right? I've really shortened it. And then for your table of contents, you want to make sure that you add that in. So I've got page 1, point of view, and I did mine yesterday, 914. Yours will say 915. Okay. So if you need to pause and go back and finish your notes, go ahead and do so. The next thing that you are going to do is you're going to do the critical vocab on page 92. So go to page 92 in your book and go ahead and pause this video and complete the critical vocab. Okay, you have completed the critical vocab. Like I said, this is the way that we are going to replace our 5-a-days. So I'm going to go ahead and give you the answers, assuming that you've worked through these. Expressing an unpopular opinion often leads to derision. Derision means like mockery, to be ridiculed. It's difficult to conceive or think that someone could be so cruel. My brother loves to vex me, to annoy me whenever he gets a chance. A hypocritical person says one thing and does another. Audacity is a characteristic of people who take risks. I wanted to shout out in fear, but I had to stifle or smother my reaction. The convict vehemently, practice that word, vehemently, denied committing the crime. And my keys fell into a deep crevice while I was rock climbing. All these definitions are in your story. Like if you didn't know what any of these meant, they're all in the story. Okay. The next thing that I did with class today was do some notice-to-note annotations. So make sure you have a highlighter, a pen, or a pencil, whatever it is that you like to work with. So with my class, what I did was, start at the beginning. So in paragraphs 1 and 2, we're looking for things that contradict each other, that are opposites. So I'm going to just give you the answer for this first one. He says that he heard all things in heaven and the earth. He heard many things in hell. Here's our contradictory statement. How then am I mad? Obviously, if he's hearing voices and he can hear all these things, he's probably crazy. So then this next statement, how am I crazy, is contradictory. The second paragraph, he's talking about how he loved the old man. He'd never wronged me. He had never given me insult. The opposite statement of this, what contradicts this statement, is on the next page at the top of the page. The opposite of this, the contradictory statement, is that he made up his mind to take the life of the old man. So if he loves him, why would he kill him? Right? Contradictory statements. Okay, the next page. In paragraph 4, you're going to mark details that repeat as he tells his story. So all of these are repeating. With what caution? With what dissimulation? With what foresight? In the second paragraph, he's talking about his lantern, how it's closed, then how he thrust his head in, then how he slowly, very, very slowly is placing his head in, and then cautiously, oh so cautiously, for the hinges creaked, that he opened the lantern. And he did this for 7 long nights, every night. So the question that your book asks you on the side is, why do you think the narrator repeats these ideas again and again? I think that all of these repetition pieces are our narrator really wanting us to know exactly what he did and how clever he is. Uh, However, we get the sense, the more and more we read, that this guy is not in his right mind. If you need to pause at any point to take notes, please feel free to do so. Okay, point of view. In this paragraph, I had students mark or underline lines or phrases that really made you not trust this person. Like, you can't trust him. So one of the first things that I underlined was this idea that he feels power. He feels this feeling of triumph. He's chuckling. He's laughing. We cannot trust this person. So the question here on the left-hand side is the narrator reliable or unreliable? The answer is no, he's not reliable. And the reason that I put is that he's laughing. He's like chuckling in the dark. He's laughing at the power he has over the old man's life. Someone mentioned in one of our classes that this guy might be at my house. Okay, this is the last one that I'm going to go over with you, and then you're going to finish the rest on your own. This one is just really difficult, and I just wanted to go over it with you guys. Basically, this is a really complicated way of saying underline the clauses and then circle phrases set up by commas or dashes. So a clause has a subject and a verb. Presently, this is not a clause. This is a phrase. It's an adverb, adverbial phrase, simply one word. Here we have a subject. I heard a slight groan. This is a complete clause, and I put brackets around it. And this is a coordinating conjunction. So that's not part of our clause. Here we have another clause. Subject. I, verb, knew. We need a subject and a verb to make a full clause. It was the groan of mortal terror. End of this clause. We have another clause. It was not a groan of pain or grief. That's the end of that clause. Then we have a dash in between a couple of clauses. So here is where it's asking us to circle these phrases set off by commas and dashes. This, oh no, another dash. So now we have another clause. It was, subject verb, the low stifled sound that arises from the bottom of the soul when overcharged with awe. End clause. Another clause. I knew the sound well. End clause. Many a night, phrase. Just at midnight, phrase. When all the world slept, phrase. So in between these clauses and dashes, now we have a bunch of phrases. Clause. It has welled up from my own bosom. End clause. Deepening. Phrase. Comma. Remember, we're looking for commas and dashes. So we're going to circle with its dreadful echo. Now we have another clause after this. The terrors subject, that distracted me, that distracted compound verb. Okay, this is a lot, I know. Basically, what the author of this textbook is asking us to evaluate is, do different text structures make writing more interesting? The answer is obviously yes, right? If we read the same sentence structures over and over again, it's going to become very, very boring. This is an interesting mix of phrases and clauses and dashes. It reminds me of the opening paragraph of this story where he's like nervous, dreadfully nervous. There's dashes all over the place, incomplete phrases, things like that. Um, we talked about how variation makes things interesting to read. And in your own writing, you're going to want variation. We also talked about how maybe the way that this is written sort of mirrors our narrator's thoughts, right? We can almost picture like what's happening in his brain as he's sort of like working through all this stuff. Lastly, we talked about how the narrator of this story is not Poe. Poe is the author. He wrote the story. The narrator is an unnamed man. This is a separate person. Last year, I had a student who thought that Poe was the author, that did he go to jail because he murdered somebody? you have to separate the author from the narrator. And you have to do that with lots of things like poems, right? The narrator in the poem, whoever is like our, character slash narrator, does not automatically equal the author. And especially in this case, because Poe did not do this, but he imagined this fictitious character who then, carried out this murder. Okay. The last thing that you guys need to do is for your homework, you need to read What is the Horror Genre? This is on page 81 of your textbook, and I would like you to complete all the notice and notes for this. It's only a couple pages long. There are not many notice and notes, so that's going to be your homework. So 2 items for your homework. Finish the Telltale Heart notice and note, and then complete What is the Horror Genre by reading it and also doing the notice and note for that. On Thursday, you will have a quiz on what is the horror genre, just like you had a quiz today on the Telltale Heart. If you have any questions, email me. I will be available. I'll just keep that Teams meeting running. Okay, good luck.